Welcome in the third episode of JavaScript for Beginners. Today we're going to talk about conditional statements. What are they and how to use them? So, let's get started. Conditional statements are a structure in our code that lets some part of our code run only if a certain condition is met. So let's give a real-life example. Let's say you want to go to the club and the condition to enter is being an adult. So if you're not an adult, you cannot get in, and if you're an adult, you can get in. That's the same thinking process of our code. If a certain condition is met, then that piece of code will run, otherwise it won't, as in our case with the club. Now, in this episode we're going to cover two types of conditional statements: if statements and switch statements. Let's get started. First, let's see our if statement. An if statement looks something like this. It starts with the keyword if, and between braces or parentheses we have our condition, and then we have curly braces. So if condition curly braces, and we need to replace this condition with some logic. So let's get the real-life example we had before. So let's declare a variable, my age equal to 19, and replace this with, it gives me an error here on the right because it doesn't know what the condition is. So let's replace this with if my age is more than 18, then console.log you're allowed in. Hit Ctrl save, and we see that message pops saying you're allowed in, because my age is 19. So this looks something like this: if 19 is more than 18, which it is, then console.log you're allowed in. If we change my age to, let's say, 17, and this becomes if 17 is more than 18, which is false, we see that nothing shows up because this piece of code between the curly braces is ignored because our condition is false. Now, beside the if statement, we can add an else statement like this, and the code between the else curly braces will execute only if our initial condition in the if statement is false. So let's say that if my age is not more than 18, then console.log you're not allowed in. And as you can see, we get the message you're not allowed in because 17 is less than 18, so our else piece of code will get executed. Beside the else statement, we can add more conditions to our if, such as, let's delete this for a moment, and let's say else if, and we can type another condition. My age is more than 60. Actually, now this condition is else if my age is equal to 18, say console.log you are barely allowed in. Okay, so this else if statement, the piece of code in our else if statement will get executed only if my age is exactly equal to 18. So if as you can see, nothing shows up because my age is 17 now. And if I change it to 18, it shows you are barely allowed in. So we have the conditions. If our age is more than 18 strictly, and if my age is exactly 18. And we can add an else console.log. Oops. You're not allowed in for when our age is not 18 and is not more than 18. So if I type here 13, you're not allowed in. Alright. Now, this is how if statements work. So let's move on to switch statements. Let's delete this. And a switch statement is used when we have a lot of conditions that are different. Let's say we have if, I don't know, a is equal to 3, and then we have if a is equal to 4, if a is equal to 5, and so on. Instead of having so many if statements, we can use a switch statement. First of all, let's get a variable. So var, let's work with apples again. Apples is equal to 5. And a switch statement looks like this. Switch, and between the parentheses we need to give a variable to work with. So we're going to give it apples and open curly braces. So our conditions will be based on the value of apples. And here in the switch statement we have cases. So we have our first case typed like this, and let's say 2, and then let's say if we have 2 apples, we console.log you have 2 apples, and after the end of every case we need to type in break. Okay, this is how our switch statement looks like. So if we change the apples variable to 2, we can see that the message shows up and it says you have 2 apples, because in our switch statement we said in the case we have 2 apples, we console.log you have 2 apples. We can add multiple cases, so let's say case 5, console.log you have 5 apples, and type in break. And if we change this to 5, it goes to you have 5 apples. In the switch statement we can add a default case where this will get executed if none of the other cases get executed. So let's say the default code is console.log I don't know how many apples you have. And if we change this to something like 10, it is not equal to 2, it is not equal to 5, so it goes to our default case, which says I don't know how many apples you have. So that was it for conditional statements. In the next episode we're going to look at loops and how to use them. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next episode.